everyone. Welcome to this session that's about Optiva and Cloud Spanner. My name is Deepti Srivastav. I'm the product manager for Cloud Spanner in the cloud databases and storage team. And it is my great pleasure to open this session for all of us. So Optiva, previously Redknee Solutions, is a telco-based software company. And as a lot of you may know, telco systems are some of the most demanding in the world. And so as Optiva looked to the cloud to gain competitive advantage and also to embrace new technology, they settled on Cloud Spanner fairly quickly, right? And that's what we're here to talk about today. But before that, so Optiva has re-platformed to use Cloud Spanner for their new billing and charging system. And recently, we announced a partnership with Optiva at Mobile World Congress earlier this year. We're very excited about that partnership. It's a great partnership. And we are so grateful and so appreciative seeing Optiva actually move a very traditional telco industry into the cloud. We're also excited that they have moved to GCP for their internal IT services as well. So to tell you all about this journey, it is my great honor and pleasure to introduce Daniel Royston, who is the CEO of Optiva.
Yeah.
Welcome, Daniel.
Hi. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you, Deepti, for that great introduction. And hopefully the volume's okay and I'm not too loud. I get really excited. That's kind of who I am. Danielle Royston. Everyone calls me DR by my initials. I'm not a doctor. I'm CEO of Optiva, as Deepti explained. And let me get my little clicker here. So yeah. So Deepti was talking about Cloud Spanner. This is Google's enterprise database that we have decided to start to use. And we're really excited about this partnership, right? Google, obviously one of the best companies in the world. And Optiva is a little small company, about $120 million of revenue, based in Toronto, Canada. I actually live in Austin, Texas. And I became the CEO of this company about 18 months ago. And 18 months ago, this company was on the verge of bankruptcy, right? It was about to die. We had about 100 customers running our product, and it worked, but the company had kind of lost its way. What I do is I'm a turnaround CEO. I go in, I'm kind of like Winston Wolfe from Pulp Fiction. I'm the fixer, right? I go in and I fix problems. And so sat down and looked at the company, looked at our assets, what was working well, what did customers really like about us, what could we do better? And one of the things we looked at was we could do more with the vision around the product. So we really started to investigate that. So as Deepti explained, we make software for telcos. And specifically, it's called charging software. It sounds boring as hell. And when I first came in, I was like, what is this? What are we doing? But I will explain what that is in a second here. So yeah, that's me. That's my cool little, my comments, because I'm coming to change everything in telco. All right, so what is charging, right? Everyone here, I see everyone has a phone. And all your phones have plans, right? The telcos come up with designs to get you to become a subscriber. That's like a customer to them. Number of minutes, number of texts, the amount of data. And so there's marketing teams that design those plans to entice you to become a customer and stay with them. And then as you're making phone calls, as you're sending texts, there is software somewhere, usually sitting on their network, usually sitting on the ground, on premise, that's tracking your calls and deducting them from your plan. And so the United States is largely a post-paid market, meaning we pay our bills after the month is over. But the world is largely a prepaid market, right? Most people are paying for it ahead of time, and then when they're out of minutes or out of data, it stops you, right? So this is it needs to be correct, right? It's a very technically difficult problem to solve, right? it's revenue, right? So if the calculation is ever wrong, these guys are not being able to calculate revenue, which is obviously their business. Number two, it's super high volume, right? Think of all the people in the country, right, simultaneously making calls and doing text, so lots of volume going on, and it has to be low latency, right? So when you make a call, right, you're not going to sit there and wait for the charging engine to return, in a minute. It has to be milliseconds of time. So it's a super difficult technical problem to solve, and I call it the trifecta of hard, right? Transactional integrity, right? Has to be computing correctly, low latency, and this is high growth, high volume. Now, all of us or most of us, maybe I have a couple Canadians, but I know I have a couple of Canadians, but we kind of think of the U.S. as like this really big market, and it's, the world revolves around us. But the reality is we are tiny compared to some of these other markets like India and China, right? And so we have a customer located in India that has 200 million subscribers. And so imagine all of us in the United States we just had one telco, we were all there. And there wasn't choices like Verizon and AT&T and Sprint and T-Mobile, right? We have a customer that is basically the size of the United States. And so for them, this is a really hard problem for us to solve. When we install our product, like I said, traditionally on the ground, we use Oracle, right? Oracle's known as maybe the world's best enterprise database. It's super trusted. It works. It handles a lot of volume. And for us, we can process in our engine about 50,000 transactions per second, which is a lot, and that's good. But for our India customer, for example, it's not enough. And so our solution there is to stand up copies of the implementation around the country in India to handle urban circles. So think of a city or a city area as an urban circle. I have 12 implementations. And so it's kind of like 12 customers in one, right? Like I have a Delhi, I have a Mumbai, right? Kolkata, right? I have all these different areas where they are handling the traffic, but I need to have a consistent database because people move, right? You don't just stay in one spot. So these guys, the database has to talk to each other. I got to keep it up. And so today we have essentially 12 data centers with testing, staging, production, disaster recovery. Right, there's a really good story about our customer where their data center started to flood in India, and our team got caught in the building, and they were just like lifting up the machines like off of the ground. I guess that's one way of getting cloud, right? But they just started like lifting the machines to save them, and our team actually, I just saw this video. Our team actually got caught in the building for like 3 days. They slept there, no food, like managing the machines. All right. So like I said, 50,000 transactions per second is pretty much our limit. Being a tough, hard problem, Oracle really owns the telco space. Like, they're everywhere. And some of our customers pay between $10 million and $100 million a year to Oracle. Oracle is notoriously difficult to do business with. Right? My customers have told me that they try to get off, and Oracle just increases the price, right? So if you're paying $100 million and you figured out a way to carve out 20, they figured out a way to still charge you $100 million. And so our customers were like, what can we do? Now, there's a lot of database vendors out there, and we certainly looked at a lot of them. But we were like, to really change this problem and come up with a fresh idea, we wanted to we went to the engineering team and said, could we make our product 10 times faster, right? Right, assuming that there's nothing stopping you, right? Change out Oracle, change out the coding, rewrite the whole entire engine. What could we do, right? Sky's the limit. And we started to look at the database, right? This is a write-intensive application, right? It's not just, look it up, return an answer. Sorry, return an answer to the user. You actually have to deduct 5 minutes from the plan and write it to the database. Meanwhile, if you're like me, I'm like texting on my phone and then doing something on my watch, and I'm on my iPad, right? So, atomically correct actions need to be captured and written to the database. And so we noticed that a lot of the performance of our application was spent writing to the database. So that's kind of got us like on the trail of maybe we could do something with a different database. So we looked at a bunch of different databases, and basically we're like, what can we do? So around this time, so I started in February. I think Spanner was announced in March, Valentine's Day. Okay, that was the day I started Optiva. I didn't realize that. So that was the day I started Optiva. And so we were looking, we're like, what can we do? How can we make this 10 times faster? And we read the Spanner press release. And we're like, are you kidding me? Like, this is our dream come true, right? We have a perfect database that can handle the transactional volume. It's distributed. It's consistent. Multiple writings, right? Like synchronized writing across 1,000 servers. It's exactly what we needed to replace big, bad Oracle. And it had the Google name so that our customers would trust it, right? I mean, they're not going to just switch to, not to disparage any databases out there, but, NeoDB or MongoDB or whatever. They need my customers are like, these are $10 billion companies. They're like, we need a good, strong name. So we looked at Spanner and we're like, this could work. This might work. So called up my friends at Google. Dom's here. I literally sent him an email. I was like, hey, Dom, you haven't heard from me in, 19 years. Yeah, but I just read this really awesome press release, and we think it could work. And it was really new. And so we put together 2 teams, and we just started working on the problem, right? Just go, right? Can you make it 10 times faster? And it was pretty easy to make it 10 times faster, right? I'll talk about it in a second about what we did, but the fact is that it was such a game changer for telco that we would have put our entire engineering budget behind getting it to work with Spanner if it was required, because it was such a revolutionary database. So that was really cool. So let's see. Yeah. So I have a demo here. I'm going to attempt to click. Yeah. All right, good. Wynn, can you go ahead and switch it to the demo? So I've tried to make performance cool, and it's actually really hard for performance to be cool. So the other thing we wanted to do, besides making it 10 times faster, is we wanted to make sure it was 1/10 of the cost. It needed to be also cheaper than Oracle, right? So again, the system works for the telcos. It's running their revenue. They're not going to move off of a system if it's just 2 times faster. It's just not enough, or 4 times faster. Now, it had to be 10 times faster, so it had to be big enough for a reason to change. But at the same time, if it's 10 times as expensive, they're also not going to move. So our second goal that we started working on was, could we make it 1/10 of the cost? And that's the beauty of the cloud, right? That's the beauty of Spanner. So what we have here is, this is a live demo, right? So it's not a video, it's a real demo. What you see over here are transactions, right? These are call records of users, right? You can see kind of what's going on, right? What they're using, what the story is. Over here is the transactions per second, and I bumped it up, right? I actually need to bump it up a little bit more. It's at 300. So this is live. And I'm going to just take it up to 500,000 transactions per second. And so the engine, what Spanner is doing is dynamically deploying nodes in Google Cloud Live right now to build up to this level. So imagine what happens in a country when an earthquake happens, or it's Christmas Day and everyone's making their family calls. You get this temporary spike in usage, and then or World Cup, right? We just went through World Cup. It was a month long, lots more usage of video on the phone. But then after World Cup, the volume drops. What my customers do is they provision to like just above what they think they need on their worst day, because they get the media attention when they're down, when things aren't working. So they need to have data centers and the capacity, the compute already hot and live, plus the disaster recovery for all of that, to be able to handle their best day or their worst day, depending on how you look at it, right? What's so great about Spanner, right, is that it's deploying dynamically. So maybe there was an unexpected event, a negative event in the country, a terrorist attack, right, earthquake. You get these spikes. And by running in the public cloud, and specifically running with Spanner, I now no longer need to deploy Oracle instances. Now, over here is the big bad line of Oracle spend. Every time that's spiking, I'm deploying another data center that's provisioned for usually equal capacity. So if you're the customer in India, right, you have a system running about and handling about 50,000 transactions per second, and now you need to handle more volume. Usually what they do is they just set up another data center that handles that capacity. You don't need all that capacity, but you pre-purchase all the compute and all the power to be able to handle that. What's nice about Spanner is I can go back down, and all that spend comes back down. So a lot of times when people look at public cloud, for our industry, for telco, we're really kind of behind everyone else. Everyone's still running in closets on site, right? Maybe some have virtualized. No one's in public cloud. In fact, when I started, my team was like, don't talk about Google. Don't talk about public cloud. It's like really bad. They're never going to do it. And I'm like, this is insane. Like, public cloud is everywhere. It's absolutely coming to telco. And so it's like, kind of behind, but now we're bringing them to the future here, right? The cloud is now. So they over-provision, they pay for all this stuff. With Spanner, I don't have to do that. And to show you that it's live, if I Alt-Tab over here, this is the Google product, right? Showing the transactions. You can see at 11, whatever, 11, why does it say 11:45? Maybe 12:45, maybe it's off on the time. It spiked when I moved it up. The nodes, I forget why the nodes are consistent. Maybe Sanka can remind me, but you can see the transactions. So this is live, running in Google Cloud. Someone's paying for it, probably me. I'll probably take down the transactions after this, right? Because it's kind of too much. Remind me to take it down. But yeah, so this is a game changer for telco and for us. So hold on, let me look at my notes one more time. Let's see here. I talked without looking at my notes. All right. So why does this, actually go back to the screen? Awesome. So why does this work, right? So sure, Oracle can do clusters and can kind of replicate multi-writing, but the difference with Spanner is I need to be distributed across like thousands of servers, right? And I need that strong consistency. So Oracle can't do that, right? I mean, I can create a cluster of like maybe 50 Oracle databases, but Spanner's doing it all for me behind the scenes. I have to have global scale, right? My telcos have multiple data centers, right? Like my India example has 12, but Google, I have the whole Google footprint, right, behind this, billions of dollars of investment. And I need to have performance at scale. I can't have a choke point for my writes like I do with Oracle. And so because of Spanner's true time functionality, where it's atomically synchronizing all the writes, this works for me. So I'm correct? Yes? Oh, I can't hear you. I don't have any Chinese customers. I have an India customer. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I forgot where I was, but it's cool. I'll figure it out. So those three, say that again. Yes, thank you, Deepti. I was like, where'd she go? Did she leave me? Right. So the true time piece, and Deepti will be able to explain this much better than me, but the whole idea behind true time is the ability to write asynchronously and keep everything in sync atomically. So I no longer have a choke point like I do with Oracle, and it's all being handled for me dynamically, which is amazing. And we think that the last piece, the true time, is really where there's technical differentiation here versus Oracle. This is not just any other database. This isn't marketing fluff that we fell for. You know, that, oh, we like Google, let's just pick Google's database. We looked at a bunch of different databases and we're like, these are 3 distinct reasons that it's not only as good as Oracle, which currently is regarded as maybe one of the best databases, it's actually better. Right? And now it supports the dynamic scaling that my telcos need. So they're not provisioning data center after data center at the same cost. Right? I'm saving them money. And now my promise of 10 times faster at a tenth of the cost is true. So again, I'm in India. My team's like, don't tell the story about Oracle and public cloud. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to talk about it. This is like an amazing idea. And I'm talking to the technical leaders, and their heads just spin when I tell them 10 times faster at a tenth of the cost. They're like, what did you say? And I was like, yeah, I don't think you'll be interested in it because you're so big. You know, you have your own data centers. My team tells me you'll never pick public cloud. They're like, can we start a proof of concept tomorrow? And so off we go, right? And so that's when I knew we were really onto a really competitive differentiation for us as a company. And we were going to really change the landscape for telco. All right, migrating your application. Like I said, I think I said this earlier, for us it was pretty easy. We had a database layer in our application that we were able to just switch out from basically SQL to RPC. And then we started performance benchmarking it, and it was 10 times faster. I mean, that sounds easy. I'm sure if the engineers that worked on it were here, they'd be like, a little bit more went into that work. But I'd say within 90 days, we had something that was 10 times faster. And then within 6 months, we had something that was 10 times cheaper, right? So at first, we were deploying like a ridiculous number of nodes. And then later, we got a little bit more efficient. So that was cool. We think there's still room to make this even faster. Right? So 10 times, I mean, like I said, it's turning heads. I have a lot of customers that are in the audience, right? We spent time yesterday talking about it. You know, they're excited about it as well. So it's working for small telcos, for super big telcos. It's a really great idea. We think there's still 2 more features of Spanner that we could do to take it kind of to the next level if we ever needed to. They have an interesting parent-child relationship with the data, so you can kind of bring your data closer together so that when we do a lookup on a particular customer's plan, it's a little bit faster. And so we're not doing that yet, but we could. And then we could look at the way we're designing our database transaction boundaries so that it's a little bit more efficient and optimized. We haven't done that. Right now, we're really focused on getting this older. I mean, this application is 15 years old, right? This isn't like Instagram, Snapchat. It's not this, right? It's like old and boring, like I said at the beginning, right? But it's running billions of dollars of monetization for the telcos of the world. Every telco has a product like this. Some cases, they have multiple products running, right? So we think this is incredible technology, game-changing computer science stuff. And so we're super excited about that.